The black moon does not pass like any ordinary night. Its silence carries weight, and that weight presses into the body before it reaches the mind. In the hours that follow, many feel a strange tightness in their muscles, an unease in their chest, or a sudden heaviness that no rest can dissolve. These signals are not coincidences. They are ancient reminders that your body is an instrument tuned to forces greater than you realize. Shaolin teachings say that the body is the first teacher. Before wisdom is spoken, before insight is understood, it arrives as sensation, a pulse that quickens without reason, a stiffness in the spine when thoughts grow heavy, a sudden clarity that sweeps through breath as if the air itself shifted. These are not symptoms to fear. They are thresholds. Each one shows you how energy moves, how discipline is tested, how your spirit calls for alignment. In this video, I will share 9 distinct physical symptoms that often rise after the black moon. Some are subtle, like ripples you barely notice until they expand. Others are intense, demanding your attention until you finally listen. Each symptom points to an inner lesson: patience, endurance, awareness, and mastery of the self. These are not random discomforts, but signposts used for centuries by those who trained their bodies and minds in harmony with the cycles of the universe. Stay until the end, and you will not only recognize these signals, you will understand how to use them as tools for transformation. This knowledge is rarely spoken outside the temple walls, but it belongs to anyone willing to walk the path of self-mastery. Welcome to Shaolin Soulfire. If these teachings resonate with you, subscribe and join this journey deeper into discipline, clarity, and inner strength. There are times when the body feels as if it is carrying stones. A heaviness spreads through the chest, the arms, or the legs, and no matter how much you rest, the weight lingers. Many believe this is simply fatigue, but in Shaolin practice we see it differently. This heaviness is often a sign that energy, your qi, has stopped moving freely. Centuries ago, the monks observed this same sensation after long meditation or after difficult winters when movement was scarce. They noticed that when energy became stagnant, the body grew sluggish, the mind clouded, and even the spirit seemed dim. To answer this, they developed practices such as AUG, the classic method of changing the tendons. It is not just exercise, it is a dialogue with the body, a way of stretching sinew and guiding breath so that qi begins to circulate again. Picture a river that has been blocked by fallen branches. The water pools, turns murky, and loses its life. The body works in the same way. When energy is blocked in the torso or limbs, you feel it as heaviness, as stiffness, as disconnection. Through mindful movement and slow, intentional breathing, those branches are cleared. The current begins to flow again, and with it comes clarity, lightness, and focus. The lesson is simple but profound. Do not fight the weight. Do not sink deeper into stillness when the body calls for motion. Meet it gently with awareness. A single stretch, held with breath, can shift more than hours of restless thought. The monks knew that freedom was not in forcing the body to be strong, but in teaching energy to move where it has become stuck. In this way, heaviness becomes the very signal that shows you where to begin. There are mornings when the body greets you with resistance. The neck feels locked, the legs feel like ropes drawn too tight, and even the back holds a quiet ache. Strangely, this stiffness often arrives without any clear reason. No heavy labor, no long journey, yet the body insists on reminding you of its limits. In ancient Shaolin training, this was never seen as a weakness. The monks understood that the body carries memory, not just of movement, but of stillness. When energy collects without release, the tendons grow rigid and the sinews tighten. To meet this condition, they turn to AUG, the art of transforming the body from within. These slow, deliberate movements were not designed for show. They were created to restore flow where tension had taken root. Each stretch was an act of dialogue. The body was never forced. It was invited to soften through patience and breath. A stiff neck was not attacked, but released with mindful turning. Tight hamstrings were not conquered, but coaxed open through gentle expansion. The monks knew that discipline was not about domination. It was about consistency, about showing up daily to breathe life back into places where rigidity had built walls. This is a lesson in mastery, to meet the body exactly as it is, without judgment. and to guide it forward with presence. When stiffness rises, the impulse may be to push harder or to grow frustrated. Yet the true key is softer. Pause, breathe into the tightness, let the exhale carry the tension out. Over time, sinews become resilient, not brittle, flexible, not fragile. The practice is less about stretching the muscles and more about teaching the mind how to move with patience, discipline, and quiet strength. Sometimes the body speaks in ways the mind refuses to acknowledge. A tight jaw, a chest that feels caged, or shoulders that cannot drop no matter how much you try. These are not random signs. They are the surface echoes of inner storms. What looks like simple tension often carries within it a deeper restlessness, the weight of unspoken worries or emotions that have not yet found their voice. In Shaolin tradition, the body is not separate from the mind. To train the body without listening to its messages is to miss the essence of the path. The monks observed that a calm exterior could hide a spirit in turmoil, just as a rigid body could conceal years of unexpressed emotions. The practice then was not to suppress these signals but to face them directly. Through meditation, movement, and breath, the inner terrain was mapped and slowly brought into balance. Think of it like a drum stretched too tightly. The skin hums with tension, producing sound, but it cannot resonate freely. The body works in the same way. Tension is not the enemy. It is a signpost pointing to where alignment is missing. Instead of ignoring or numbing these signals, the discipline lies in pausing, feeling fully, and allowing the message to come through. True mastery is not about building a body that never falters. It is about cultivating awareness deep enough to read every signal clearly, to understand that a stiff neck may not just be physical strain but an unresolved burden of thought, that restless legs may be carrying the residue of unspoken fear. When you learn to listen with patience, the body becomes a teacher, showing you where the spirit is asking for attention and where the mind is longing to be set free. There are days when the mind drifts like leaves scattered by the wind. Thoughts pull in different directions, attention slips away, and even the simplest task feels impossible to hold. This scattered state is not new. It has always been part of the human condition. Yet in Shaolin philosophy, it is seen as the first gate on the path of mastery. Before discipline can deepen, you must first learn to notice where your attention wanders. The monks spoke of the mind as a wild horse, restless and quick to run. To chase after it only leads to exhaustion. Instead, the practice is to observe without judgment. Watch where the horse runs. Notice the patterns, the impulses, the distractions. Awareness alone begins to steady the chaos. Once you see clearly how your attention is being stolen, you can choose to bring it back. The simplest anchors are often the most powerful. A breath that rises and falls with patience. A posture that holds the spine upright, grounding you like a tree rooted deep in the earth. These are not empty rituals. They are signals to the mind that you are present, that you are no longer drifting. Each return to the breath, each correction of posture is an act of discipline, not dramatic, but steady. Over time, scattered energy begins to collect. The fog lifts, the restlessness softens, and concentration returns, like a flame shielded from the wind. Mastery does not mean the mind never strays. It means you know the way back again and again. In this way, even distraction becomes part of the training, reminding you of the responsibility to guide your own awareness with calm strength and quiet persistence. There are moments when the inner weather changes without warning. Fatigue drapes itself over the body like a heavy cloak. Irritation rises quickly, sparked by the smallest things. Restlessness drives you to move, yet nothing feels satisfying. These shifts in mood are natural, but if left unchecked, they begin to rule every action, turning days into storms of reaction instead of clarity. Shaolin teachings remind us that discipline is not about feeling perfect before we act. It is about moving with purpose even when the waves of emotion are high. The monks understood that moods are like clouds drifting across the sky. They come, they go, they change shape constantly. To tie your discipline to them is to lose yourself in endless change. To ground your practice in steady action, however, is to discover freedom. A story often told in the temple speaks of a young student who could only train when he felt inspired. His progress was slow, uneven, and filled with frustration. The master reminded him, strength is built not on the rare days of passion, but on the ordinary days of effort. A single stance held for 5 minutes each morning, repeated daily, will shape the body and calm the mind far more than bursts of enthusiasm followed by weeks of neglect. This is the essence of discipline, to choose clarity over mood, presence over impulse. Small actions, steady breathwork, a posture repeated, a quiet meditation before sleep are like drops of water. Alone they seem minor, but gathered over time, they carve stone. Emotional turbulence will always pass through, but if your discipline is consistent, it becomes the anchor that holds you steady, no matter what storms rise within. There are times when emotions move through the body more strongly than through thought. Anxiety can press like a weight against the chest. Sadness may soften the shoulders until they collapse inward. At other times, an unusual calm settles in, so sudden it feels almost foreign. These sensations are not random. They are the body's language, revealing the tides of the inner world before the mind can fully name them. In the tradition of martial morality or Wood, balance is seen as the highest discipline. The teaching is simple yet profound. Do not cling to joy, do not sink into sorrow, and do not chase calm as if it were permanent. Instead, cultivate harmony between the emotional mind and the wise mind. Just as a skilled martial artist never meets force with blind force, but with measured response, the practitioner of self-mastery learns not to be ruled by extremes. A tale is told of a student whose heart was restless. In battle, he fought with anger, and in meditation, he clung to calm. Both paths led to failure, for he had not learned to stand steady in the middle. His teacher guided him to observe rather than react, to notice his emotions without feeding them. Over time, the storm still came, but he no longer drowned in them. The body offers these lessons each day. A sudden tension in the stomach, a looseness in the breath, a calm that feels like silence spreading through the bones. Each is a signpost. The practice is to watch without judgment, to bow to the signal without rushing to fix it. In this way, balance grows naturally. The body becomes not a battlefield of emotion, but a field of awareness where strength and serenity can meet. There are mornings when the body wakes heavy, as though sleep has done little to restore it. The bones feel tired, the mind sluggish, and even simple movement requires effort. This exhaustion is deeper than the need for more rest. It is the signal of an inner reserve that has been drained, a reminder that vitality does not only come from hours of sleep, but from how energy is gathered and preserved throughout the day. In Shaolin tradition, the body was trained not only for strength, but for resilience. The monks discovered that endurance was less about pushing the body harder and more about aligning breath, movement, and focus into harmony. A strike delivered without breath behind it is empty. A stance held without focus crumbles quickly. But when breath, body, and mind move as one, even the simplest posture becomes a wellspring of energy instead of a drain. Stories from the temple tell of students collapsing after hours of training, only to be asked by their masters to stand again, not with force but with awareness. The lesson was not to drive themselves further into exhaustion, but to learn how to breathe properly, how to let the body draw strength from stillness as much as from motion. In this way, resilience was built not through reckless effort, but through disciplined balance. For the one who feels bone-tired, the practice is gentle, a posture held with steady breath, a focus on the rise and fall of the abdomen can begin to rehydrate the inner well. Small moments of mindful practice rebuild reserves in ways sleep alone cannot. This is the path of inner mastery, to learn that true strength is not found in endless exertion, but in knowing how to restore and protect the energy that sustains you. At times, you may notice a quiet pressure in the lower belly, a sense of alertness that does not come from the mind but from somewhere deeper. This center, known in the internal arts as the dantian, has long been regarded as the well of life energy. It is where breath gathers, where movement begins, and where balance is sustained. To ignore it is to move through the world unanchored. To cultivate it is to walk with quiet strength. The practice of Nigong, the internal work, places great importance on this core. The monks understood that true power does not rise from tense muscles or sheer force. It flows from a center that is stable, supple, and alive with breath. A master could stand still, calm as a stone, yet his presence alone radiated strength. That presence was not created by rigidity, but by harmony between body and breath, centered in the dantian. There is a story of a student who clenched his abdomen, believing that strength meant holding tight. His master simply placed a hand on his stomach and asked him to breathe. With each inhale, the belly softened and expanded. With each exhale, it drew in gently. The student realized strength was not in hardness, but in allowing the center to move like water, fluid, responsive, and calm. When you feel that subtle pressure in your torso, do not resist it or try to control it. Let the breath flow into the center. Feel the rise and fall as if a quiet lake was stirred only by the wind. In this way, the core becomes not a rigid shield, but a living foundation. Stillness at the center allows every action that follows, every step, every gesture, to carry the weight of balance and the grace of clarity. The body can shift quickly between two extremes. One moment there is a deep and almost sacred calm, the next a restless jitteriness that makes it difficult to stay still. This swing is not a sign of weakness, it is the natural rhythm of energy seeking balance. In Shaolin understanding, these fluctuations are not to be feared, but to be recognized as a call to greater presence. Self-mastery is not achieved by hovering on the surface, waiting for perfect conditions. It demands direct, personal training. The monks often reminded their students, half measures will never carry you across the river. Either you step fully onto the path, or you remain where you are. This is not harshness, but clarity. The energy within you asks for guidance. If it rises into restlessness, give it purpose. If it settles into stillness, honor the silence. An old teaching tells of a student who could not meditate because his body twitched with nervous energy. His master instructed him to rise and walk slowly in circles, each step paired with breath. Over time, the restlessness dissolved into rhythm, and rhythm into calm. Another student, lost in blissful stillness, was told to lift his arms and practice simple strikes. The master reminded him, calm must also be tested in movement. This is the invitation of the present moment. Do not cling to calm as if it should last forever, and do not resist jitteriness as if it were an enemy. Meet each state directly, with honesty. Lean into stillness when it appears. Move with purpose when the body demands motion. In doing so, you train not only the body but the mind and spirit to flow with what is real rather than struggle against it. In the days following the black moon, the body becomes a messenger. Stiffness in the joints, sudden waves of fatigue, bursts of energy, or restless thoughts that refuse to quiet. All of these are signals. They may feel disruptive, yet within them lies guidance. The ancient way is not to dismiss these changes or to fight against them, but to listen with heightened awareness. Every shift carries a lesson about how chi flows, where it stalls, and how balance can be restored. Shaolin wisdom teaches that endurance and focus are born not from suppressing discomfort, but from meeting it with clarity. The monks understood that calm cannot be forced. When the body is heavy, they did not command it to be light. When the mind was restless, they did not demand silence. Instead, they asked, what is real in this moment, and how can I respond with intention? This is the heart of discipline, not blind control but steady alignment with truth. A story is told of a novice who grew frustrated during training. His mind scattered and body aching. He tried to push harder, hoping discipline meant overpowering the struggle. His master corrected him gently. True strength is not in crushing resistance, but in working with it, by softening his breath, slowing his movements, and honoring what his body revealed. The novice found endurance rising naturally. This is the essence of self-mastery. To observe with clarity, to accept what is present, and to act with grounded purpose. Whether stiffness, fatigue, or sudden restlessness, each state is an invitation to practice. When you respond moment by moment, not from force but from awareness, mastery begins to bloom, not as a sudden achievement, but as a steady unfolding of balance and strength within.